The station is quiet. The clock ticks slowly, almost as if time itself is holding its breath. Midnight is near. The faint sound of a distant whistle pierces the stillness. A dark figure materializes through the mist, and an old, worn-out train emerges from the fog, its lights cutting through the darkness like the eyes of a ghost, signaling the start of a journey into the unknown. Daniel steps onto the train, the door closing with a heavy thud behind him. A cold wind blows through the car as the train begins its motion, taking him into a world he can't yet comprehend. Inside, the atmosphere feels thick. The passengers are strangely still, their faces familiar but lifeless. They sit in silence, their eyes vacant, staring into nothing. It's as if they're waiting for something, or perhaps someone. Across from Daniel, a familiar face, Tom, his old friend. But Tom's expression is blank, his eyes not truly seeing anything. A chill runs down Daniel's spine. Near the end of the aisle, an old woman sits, her eyes frozen, staring at nothing, not a single blink. She's more statue than person, a presence that feels eternal. As the train moves deeper into the night, Daniel feels the weight of a growing unease, as if this moment, this decision, was already written. A strange sensation pulls at him, the feeling of being watched by eyes unseen. He looks across the aisle and sees his grandmother, young, vibrant, but distant. She smiles at him, yet something about her smile feels wrong. The darkness outside the window grows deeper, an endless tunnel of black that stretches into. At the front of the train, the conductor watches, his eyes dark, piercing. His face is unreadable, timeless, as though he belongs to no era. He's both present and not, a figure of authority in a world that seems to defy logic. Daniel moves through the train, looking for answers, but the passengers remain motionless, like statues. They don't acknowledge him, their eyes locked on a place far beyond his reach. An eerie sense of isolation begins to grow inside him, the feeling of being trapped in a world outside of time. He passes a woman who looks like his old teacher, but her face is pale, almost translucent. Her vacant eyes don't meet his. She doesn't speak. She doesn't even acknowledge his existence. The train feels increasingly suffocating, the walls growing tighter, the air harder to breathe. The passengers, once human, now seem to be fading, becoming ghostly figures, slowly dissolving into the very walls of the train. The lights above flicker, casting long, unsettling shadows across the car. Daniel sees an emergency exit and rushes toward it, but as he approaches, the door moves further away. No matter how fast he runs, it stays just out of reach. His heart races as panic sets in. The train is moving faster now, and the walls feel as though they're closing in on him. The coldness deepens. And then, the conductor's voice comes again, cold and distant. "You're here because you belong here. This is your journey now." The train shakes violently, the lights flicker and then go out completely. The screams of the passengers fill the air, but they sound muffled, as if they're coming from another world. The walls begin to crumble, the train breaking apart like dust in the wind. The sound of the train itself begins to fade, replaced by a hollow, oppressive silence. The tunnel ahead grows darker, pulling them all in, and Daniel realizes with a sudden, horrifying clarity that there's no escape from this place. The train is not taking them to a destination, it's taking them to their end. In the midst of the chaos, Daniel makes a desperate decision. He leaps into the darkness outside the train, his body falling into the abyss. For a moment, there's nothing. No sound, no light, only the weightless void. And then, suddenly, he wakes up. He's lying on the ground in an empty train station. The fog lingers, thick and suffocating. For a moment he's disoriented, unsure of where he is. But the station is still, silent,
A ticket.
abandoned.
The same ticket from the
Daniel
train.
looks at his
But
hand.
this time there's no date, only one word: return. He doesn't understand. The world around him feels strange, out of place. The sky begins to lighten, but something is off. The train station seems to fade and shift with the light, like a place caught between worlds. And then from the corner of his eye, he sees a face, a familiar face from his past. But when he turns, it's gone, vanishing like a ghost into the fog. The train station, once again, appears in front of him. Silent, still, as if it never disappeared at all. The sound of a train whistle echoes in the distance, but there's no train in sight. Daniel hears whispers, faint, distant voices calling his name. But when he turns, there's no one there. The world around him feels like it's dissolving, blurring into the mist, leaving him with the unsettling feeling that he's still trapped in a never-ending nightmare. Daniel stands alone in the fading station, looking back at the walls, which seem to melt away into the fog. A shadow watches him from the corner, barely visible but undeniably present. It waits, patiently. Daniel knows now. The station, the train, the passengers, they were all part of him. And in this place, there's no escape. Time itself is a loop, and Daniel is its prisoner, forever bound to the train that never stops.